you can take it away, Osti, coming in from the cold
Sure
here.
thing, man. I feel like Rafa's repping my boy Kid Cobra over here. No bias, no bias, but we're going straight to Buster Beach. This is going to be a great stage for him because obviously Kid Cobras love this stage because you can just corner your opponent so well into those little pockets that happen onto the stage. That's probably what he's trying to be going for against Gore.
Yeah, and
Now, Gore, on the other hand, is going to be doing a lot of just evasive techniques. He's going to be trying to crawl underneath the arms, being super avoiding all the attacks that Rafa throws at him. And we're probably just going to jump into it. Kind of what's happening right now. I mean, Rafa does have a slight lead here, Defer.
yeah, I think what's interesting here for me is that Gore actually went with a double tri bolt, knowing that Raffa has a Megaton and a Popper on his hands. It's very hard for him to actually get around that huge Megaton, but he's trying to, well, he's making it work somehow in a Gore kind of way. Oh, actually jumping over that Megaton now to use the rush for 240. This is looking surprisingly even, I would say.
Yeah, it's shocking that he actually is going for the light arms against the Megaton because, like, right there when he was using his rush, he could actually just throw his Megaton through that because a heavy is way heavier than a light, you know?
Ooh, and now Raffa is actually one hit away from losing. Oh, he does actually. Gore taking this very kind of, as we've been saying previously here in the cast, these matches with Gore, they're always so fast because he plays so kind of aggressive in all of his matchups.
Which is so bizarre for a Helix, in my opinion, because when I first saw Helix like as a character in his design, I always expected him to be like, kind of like a campy character, a character that just stays back, waits for the opponent to throw out a risky option, then punishes accordingly. But we're seeing Gore just jumping in constantly, using, like you said, the double tri-bolt, trying to get another rush on deck, catches Raffa's landing. That was a great use of rush coming from him.
Yeah, I think something that definitely has been kind of a Gore signature is that he has been kind of reinventing the character in a lot of ways, and especially how the character changes now when you're playing customs, as this tournament is. Kind of Gore, the Helix character changes a lot when he doesn't have to use the Guardian or the Blob and stuff like that. So, oh, now, oh, he actually denies that rush in the end there as well.
Yeah, that was an example of what I was talking about earlier. The Megaton just went right through the rush due to being a light arm. Doesn't matter. Gore's going to catch that little nick of a hit and take away game number one. Now, I felt like that entire game was just... So, Raffa had an edge in the beginning. Then Gore immediately adapted. He started just throwing out a lot of attacks and a lot of risky options, just going for rushes, not really trying to punish Gore as much. And meanwhile, I had Gore punishing every little small thing that Raffa was throwing out.
Yeah, I think it's really important. Pineapple was mentioning this before as well. Was that Gore's kind of also a kind of signature Gore thing is that he, instead of adapting to the players with the arms, he actually adapts to them with his playstyle instead. Now, trying to go under and over those Megaton. It's actually the first time I've been seeing that kind of way of dealing with that. But it's very interesting to see. This is also a best out of 5 now. We've just switched from best out of 3 to best out of 5. But I'm actually curious, like for for you, Osti, who has been commentating more of defaults only tournaments. What are your kind of what do you want to see out of this? Because now we're only playing customs, right? And it's like, are you expecting a lot of different things here, or do you think that it'll be kind of similar to what you've been seeing in 2GGP?
Oh, I'm not really too sure. Like you said, this is actually one of my first times commentating a custom arms tournament. I've only ever done like the defaults tournaments, that either live or online.
Yeah.
And also with like as an example, like, so what are these stages list? What's the stage list for this tournament?
So
like, what's legal? What's not legal?
This stage tournament or stage list for this tournament has been very kind of open. I think this tournament was actually made several months ago, and it's been in like kind of an outdated stage list. But so a lot of the stages are actually allowed this time around, but I think the main part here that was not allowed is that Misango and his new arms were not included in this set because they were considered kind of too new to the meta, basically.
Oh, my boy Misango's banned?
Yeah, unfortunately.
Oh no, I was like studying him too. Okay, whatever.
Yeah, but this is kind of we've been seeing this as Raffa's home turf. He's been labbing so much on this stage with this combination.
I mean, honestly, you can tell. Look how much work he's putting in. He literally almost perfected Gore on this stage. It's a great stage for Kid Cobra in this matchup against Helix because Helix thrives on having wide open spaces just in case he needs to back off and not apply as much pressure. And meanwhile, you have Kid Cobra, who loves jumping, right? Like, because he gets a lot of distance when he jumps. When he jumps on top of the trampoline as like an added boost to kind of mix up where he's going to land, it allows him to just kind of like dash around his opponent, as well as knocking his opponent onto the trampoline, getting a rush afterwards. But now we see Gore starting to adapt with the arms counter pick, picking double Hydra because he's recognizing that Raffa is going to be jumping quite often.
Yeah, I think it was a very good rush there from Gore. I think he got 365, but now Raffa actually has his rush of his own, so if he gets that kind of perfect Yabuki that he wants to, then he can turn this around very easily.
Especially with the popper arm, it does have that wind attribute that can knock him onto that trampoline, setting up for the great Yabuki combo. This could be it.
There it is.
You called it, man. And there he goes. Good rack on, but a little bit of damage. Not too much, only a mere 170. He has him back down onto the ground. Gore's looking for another opening with his Hydra, throwing out his attacks left and right. He's trying to bait out Raffa going to the left. And here's an example of the Megaton just going right through the rush, but it doesn't matter. He managed to land the last couple of hits, which are the first hits that matter, getting 210 damage. He's one punch away. There it is.
There we see Gore kind of coming back into this now. This first round might have been his kind of way of, trying things out and seeing seeing what Raffa is doing. And now he actually adapted, as we said before.
Yeah, adapted playstyle and arms pick. Again, he's just chilling there, like moving his body left to right to avoid the hitboxes. Megaton's a pretty large hitbox, so it doesn't really help too much in that evasion department. But again, Gore's just spamming the Hydra swings because he knows it's a really good option for just building rush. That's exactly what he's doing. Built rush, uses rush to 360 damage.
And he's
no
still
scope.
Yeah, 360 no scope there. And I think Gore is he's still sitting on a perfect health now, so this could actually be a really nice finish for him if he gets this last one. Raffa, now he's just staying back really far away. I think he was kind of using or waiting for his opportunity there, but Gore is not going to let him get it. And now he's down to one hit away for losing this round.
Raffa was definitely just trying to find out when would be a safe time to get in, to try to fight Gore. When would be a good time for him to try to get through? But meanwhile, he's trying to like make this decision and just kind of chilling back. Gore was just swinging wildly, building his rush again, and that's exactly how he took that round away from him with a perfect to boot.
Yeah, and it's looking very kind of convincing here for Gore in this best out of 5. I think what really kind of sets these things apart is that Raffa has been very dominant on the ladder, but there aren't a lot of opportunities for our EU players to actually face these top NA players, and Gore being one of the sponsored players now from STDx. So it's really interesting to see how this kind of dynamic shifts when they're just like, the top boys on the ladder, and then what does that actually mean in a tournament setting?
Right. Yeah, it's when companies pick up players, they got to figure out like, are you like placing well in tournaments? Do you have a good social media presence? Are you like attending live tournaments? There's a lot of factors that go into that, and I'm glad that some companies are interested in picking up a game like ARMS, especially with EVO Japan, kind of around the corner and coming up in about a month and a half, 2 months or so.
Yeah, it's going to be super hype. I think, except for Don't Get Hit and. We also have Smash Out Hunger, which will be going on next weekend. So that's kind of the.
Ooh.
It's not a major because ARMS doesn't have a major yet, I guess. But Smash Out
Yeah.
Hunger is really trying. They have over $100 in the prize pool, I think, and Resolve will be there, by the way, and 3 fellows in ARMS players. So it's going to be
Is
pretty
that
hype.
an online tournament, offline tournament?
It's going to be an offline tournament in St. Louis, actually. So.
Oh, wait, I did hear about that. I'm going to be in California. So
Yeah. Well, it will be streamed, so we'll be able to see it at least. Now,
of course.
okay, going into the third match here of this best out of 5. Seeing no changes in arms. Gore still staying with the Hydras, and Raffa with the Popper and Megaton. I think this might actually work better for Raffa in this setting. He doesn't have the trampolines, but at least not yet, until that breaks in the middle.
Yeah. That's the key words, are not yet, right? Because they can easily come down, especially with a grab from Kid Cobra that actually slams his opponent down onto the ground. Really helps break out the trampoline. Now, I noticed that chat was talking a little bit earlier about the movement of Kid Cobra, right? To be honest, I feel like Kid Cobra's movement isn't the greatest. He just has a lot of like quick steps to his game that allows him to like do quick yet predictable steps, go dashing to the left or the right.
Yeah.
When he doesn't have the time to charge and you're applying all this pressure, it's hard for him to get out without jumping. So it can be kind of troublesome for him to get out of it. And I think that's what Gore's kind of capitalizing on against Raffa.
Yeah, Raffa has a very kind of known playstyle on the European ladder, which he kind of he leads with the Megaton, and then he uses the popper behind it. But if you can see through that, then Raffa might look like a one-trick pony, which it kind of looks like in this scenario at least. But yeah, so Raffa has been kind of using that. I don't know. I wouldn't say it's a trick, but that kind of strategy going into the Kid Cobra playstyle. But it's kind of proving that he might not be able to kind of adapt as easily as Gore with his changes of arms and also playstyles.
Yes, that was good on Raffa, just avoiding that rush there. Like, he threw it out, just immediately ran out of the way, didn't even try to challenge it with his Megaton. But now both of his arms are down. He's a little bit too far away for the heads to connect. Gore manages to land it. You see him catching the jumps. Raffa is starting to adapt a little bit to Gore jumping from left to right.
Yeah, I think if Raffa can manage to break this middle part here, he can still get that Yabuki, or the spooky Yabuki, as some call it. But
Spooky Yabuki, I love it.
yeah. But oh wow, and he actually Gore having those kind of narrow rushes there, managing not to get any hits in. We even see the wiggle there from Gore. He's kind of known to do that. It's not. I don't think it's a BM thing. It's more of a Gore getting into his rhythm there. But I think Raffa can actually finish this now if he gets this rush in. Yeah, he can finish this now if he decides to use it. Ooh, it's getting really close now from both of these players. Oh, and the spam.
Now, Raffa held on to his rush because he knew that the second he activated it, that Gore was just going to jump out of the way and get a punish on him. Gore is, from my brief time of fighting against Gore a couple months ago, Gore is amazing at punishing you for using rush.
Yeah.
So like, you don't want to use rush unless you know it's gonna land, or like you're punishing a landing, or you like broke one their shield or